Hello everyone, I'm Dan Larimer, CTO of Block One. I'm sorry I can't be there with you all today, but I'm back here in Blacksburg, Virginia, working with our growing team of developers to make EOSIO the best smart contract platform possible. I hope I get to see you all sometime in the future.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Brendan Bloomer, and I'm the CEO of Block One. We're so happy to be here in Korea. This is our first meetup, so thank you for coming. Uh, 2018 has been a great year for our community, and we've been working really hard to bring you an experience tonight. And we wanted to basically show you everything from technical discussions to what we're going to be doing in the future. I'm going to turn it over to Simon, and then I'll come back later and we'll do a little bit of some special announcements. So go ahead, Simon.
Thank you. 안녕하세요. 해시드 라운지 오거나이저 김서준입니다. 오늘 서울에서 처음으로 EOS 개발사인 블락원과 함께 오피셜 미트업을 개최하게 된 것을 진심으로 기쁘게 생각합니다. 추운 날씨에도 불구하고 이렇게 많은 분들이 관심을 가져주셔서 감사합니다. EOS는 현재까지 이더리움 등 주류 블록체인 플랫폼이 도전 중인 확장성 문제에 대한 명확한 해법을 제시하며 많은 주목을 받고 있습니다. EOS는 수백만 명의 유저가 사용하면서도 초당 수백만 트랜잭션이 처리될 수 있도록 병렬화가 적용되며 데이터베이스, 계정 권한, 스케줄링, 인증 등을 제공하는 블록체인 운영체제입니다. 오늘 미트업은 기획 당시 300여 명 규모로 준비되고 있었는데 미트업 공지를 올린 지 불과 몇 시간 만에 900명 가까운 분들이 참여 신청을 해주시면서 커뮤니티 내에서 폭발적인 인기 때문에 대형 행사로 확장되어 진행되게 되었습니다. 커뮤니티의 높은 관심만큼이나 알찬 행사가 되기를 바랍니다. 오늘 미트업의 발표자들을 간략하게 소개하겠습니다. 방금 여러분들에게 인사를 드렸던 블락원의 CEO인 브렌단 블루머, 그리고 블락원의 어드바이저인 브락 피어스, 시니어 애널리스트인 조시 라빈, 그리고 리드 프로덕트 디벨로퍼인 세르그 메텔린 등이 멋진 키노트를 해주실 예정입니다. 그리고 오늘 안내사항이 있어서 제가 간략하게 영어로 먼저 발표를 하겠습니다. We are here tonight to talk about EOS.io technology. While there is an ongoing token distribution, we will not be discussing the EOS ERC20 token. None of the presentations tonight is solicitation to participate in that token distribution. 그럼 먼저 EOS의 어드바이저인 브락 피어스의 멋진 발표를 들어보겠습니다. 암호화폐, 블록체인, 그리고 의식하는 문화에 대한 키노트를 발표할 예정입니다. 큰 박수로 마주해 주시기 바랍니다.
안녕하세요. Good to be back in Korea. I've been doing business here for over a decade. Back in 2005 and 2006, I acquired a business called Itemania, and then eventually Itembase. So I've been in the digital currency business in Korea for some time, and I think that's very important because that's what's causing Korea to be the leading sort of market in the world. It's the fact that this was the mecca of gaming, and gamers and people that understand sort of the secondary markets or the item trading industry were the ones best equipped to understand this trend here. And it's exciting to see how Korea is leading the world. Here's a trailer for a film that was made about the work that we used to do, which I think has led to what you see here.
I struggled for years trying to explain what it was I was doing.
Usually I just say I work with video games, because if I say, you know, I'm a virtual currency broker, people just kind of look at you like, what?
You've got games that are based entirely on selling gold on Facebook. Virtual worlds are creating demand, and somebody's going to have to meet those demands. If they don't, somebody like me will.
It was at that time that I realized that people will spend money on virtual things no differently than they would for tangible things. That was kind of that eureka moment for me. And that's really when my company was on its way to doing $100 million in revenue.
And they said, so what you got to do, you got to take all the profit we've made, and you got to give it to us, or we're going to sue you tomorrow. Oh, this is going to end badly. Oh.
And there are a lot of people who hate what we do.
The business versus family. I didn't do well.
This is the future of the video game industry.
And this has happened on a massive scale in countries like China.
比如说当他们问的时候呢，我说 OK， 那休息不说我，他们没有底薪的。
The real and the virtual starts to blend together.
But I always looked at this as something that could go poof instantly.
So this is a film that comes out this year. So my background was in virtual worlds, and now we're doing this in the real one. So a couple of quick things. What's driving this trend? I started Blockchain Capital, which was the first venture fund in the space, and our logo is a digital starfish. It's a great book if you want to study decentralization, called The Starfish and the Spider. Do you know what happens when you cut the leg off a spider? It walks with a limp. If you cut off another leg, more of a limp, you cut off its head, it's dead. But with a starfish, if you cut off one of these legs, it grows back. If you cut off one of these legs with any part of the center of the starfish, that will become an entirely new starfish. If we cut it 5 ways through the center, it will become 5 starfish. So this is the best example of sort of decentralized systems that exist in nature. And that's a big part of what's happening is here. The world is moving away from centralized systems to distributed and decentralized systems. And it's that trend combined with proprietary software becoming open source software. The open source movement has already been one where we know it's a superior methodology of development, but it took a very long time for the open source movement to really find that exponential growth curve. And it's being driven by this technology. And that's because historically, if you wanted to work on open source systems, it was voluntary. It was something you would do to contribute your time, you know, because you believed philosophically in what might be built, or you wanted to, you know, do something cool and get some credit. But when you're not compensated, it's hard for people to devote their lives to the open source movement. The blockchain, or the tokenization of technology and protocols, is what's created the financial incentive where you can make more money working on decentralized open source systems than you can working at Facebook or Google. And it's that tokenization, the ability to essentially own part of, call it the IP, or of these technologies, that's driving this. And we're also moving away from, call it proprietary ownership of things, to shared assets. So it's the combination of these 3 trends that are driving everything that we're seeing today. It's worth noting that Uber is the most successful taxi company in the world, but doesn't have any cars. Facebook is the largest media company in the world, but it doesn't create any content. Alibaba, the largest retailer in the world, but has no inventory. Airbnb, the largest provider of accommodations, but doesn't own any rooms. And Bitcoin is now the fastest growing bank in the world, but with no employees or branches. And the other thing that's interesting is all of these centralized ones, the first 4, those are becoming market opportunities for anyone that wants to go there. Last year was kind of the year of ICOs, and towards the end of the year it became all about forks. It's worth noting that forks are a good thing. Forking is, what provides for you can't have bad leadership. If someone decides to run a project in a way where we, the community, feel that the leadership is not doing things the way that we'd like, we always have the option to fork it. So forking is basically evolution. Every one of us is a fork of our parents. And so you have contentious forks, and then you have non-contentious forks. But these are actually good things, and they lead to the progress that we're seeing. So what are the big things that are driving all that we see here? One is that you've seen, call it consumer sort of adoption. We're seeing, I think, probably a 10x growth this year, exponential, and then also on the corporate side, you're seeing the use of stuff. So what are the big drivers here? One is you've got places with major inflation, Venezuela, Argentina. Obviously, you've seen cash being eliminated in markets around the world. Africa, do you know what the sort of leading payment market in the world is for mobile? It's actually Kenya. Kenya is the leading country in the world for payment technology, and that's because they didn't have incumbent infrastructure. And so you're going to see in places like Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia huge growth, places like India over the course of this year, and obviously places with currency controls. And now you've seen all the world's major financial institutions. What's been driving the price more than anything these days is the consumer adoption that you're seeing happen, massive growth occurring there, but also all the major financial institutions of the world have essentially bought in, and you're starting to see them actually buy tokens. The major institutions are coming in, and I think we're going to see more of that over the course of this year, because it's more or less all of them. Some of the blockchain technologies that are coming out this year, we're going to see the promise of what the blockchain can do actually deliver. Historically, we've been more in these prototype phases where we can't do anything at scale. There's fees, and that's all going to change this year, which means that the financial institutions are going to go from running on pilots to actually full implementations of this technology. And it's a global phenomenon. Historically, California, or the west coast of the United States, is where most of the world's innovation occurred. And the reason for that is that the capital formation, the financing or money available to entrepreneurs and innovators was primarily on the west coast of the United States. What you're seeing now is entrepreneurs anywhere in the world have access to capital. It's no longer just that west coast of the United States or some of these other markets. If a genius is born in Africa or Eastern Europe or anywhere in the world at this point, if the next Einstein or the next Dan Larimer, can come from anywhere. Innovation is now able to come from anywhere on Earth, so it's, a pretty important thing. Every major VC in the world is in. In terms of money that's flown into the market, VCs started funding actively in 2013, more so in 2014, and even more so in 2015. But what happened in 2016 is it went flat. And that's what drove the ICO market, which in the first year you saw 64 ICOs raising a little over $100 million, excluding the DAO. What the DAO did, even though it's an example of what not to do, make sure that you've done sufficient security audits, not once but twice. But what it demonstrated to entrepreneurs around the world is this isn't kind of the thing for people that couldn't raise money from VCs. It demonstrated that this model has the ability to scale. And the best entrepreneurs said, rather than taking money from top-tier VCs, I'd prefer to do an ICO. And the DAO is what basically signaled the market and demonstrated that that's possible. Obviously, huge amounts of capital here that are coming in, and that's going to basically bring about the end of VC. I mean, this data point is my favorite, which is that token sales, token offerings, are vastly exceeding now for the early stage the amount of capital coming to entrepreneurs. The other thing that's worth noting is I think 2018 is going to be largely about security tokens. And these are tokens that are not just utility, but have potentially royalties, dividends, rights, ownership. And so blockchain capital was the first issuance of a security token last year. And I think you're going to see a ton of that this year. I think that will be the biggest trend in 2018. And I think that by 2019, security tokens will exceed that of utility tokens, and that might even happen this year. One of the other things people like to ask is, are we in a bubble? I think it's worth setting the context with the internet as an analogy. So the internet, at its height during the late 90s, reached a $7 trillion market cap. And that was when it was a primarily Western phenomenon, and that's not adjusted for inflation. I think I could make an argument that that number, if it were global and inflation adjusted, is somewhere between 50 and 100 trillion. So when you start thinking about the context relative to that market, you can see in the bottom left here, we're just at the very beginning of this curve relative. That doesn't mean we're going to see cycles of prices going up and down. The price is the primary barometer of sentiment, and it doesn't necessarily always track the fundamentals. And clearly, we're going to continue to see emotions in the market, but relative to the internet, we're still very, very early. And I think this is a technology that's going to impact the world probably 10 times more than the internet has. I think that this is also worth noting. You know, historically, we've lived in this sort of world where money is power, but we're undergoing a paradigm shift, and that is that money is not going to be power in the future anymore. It's going to be technology is power, and consciousness is power. You know, money is something that's being reinvented. I like sharing this because for any of you that's in this space, the most important thing I would encourage you to look at when evaluating these decentralized autonomous communities is that these things are communities first and foremost. And it's about, you know, building a community to support that community and getting as many people involved as you possibly can. And to do that requires nurturing your community. So you want to really look at community leadership because that's what these systems are. I like this as a
learned a lot
a little
about
lesson.
leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes, and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut, and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers, because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
We're all superheroes. And what I mean by that is we all have talents, and if you don't know what your superpowers are yet, I encourage you to spend time thinking about this. And your superpowers are the skills that you've uniquely refined over the course of your life. And it's about figuring out what those things are and then figuring out how to go give those gifts to others. Life is about figuring out, what you're good at, developing those skills in such a way that you're able to then go contribute that to others and the communities that you believe in. I like to talk about this as well, which is this concept of a billionaire. To me, a billionaire isn't someone with $1 billion. A unicorn isn't a billion-dollar company. To me, a billionaire is someone that's positively impacting the lives of 1 billion people. A unicorn is a community that is positively impacting the lives of 1 billion people. Back in that paradigm shift, I think this is relevant, and this is a concept that I like to talk about, which is ikigai, which is figuring out what you're good at, what you're passionate about, what you love, and what the world needs. And when you find that center point between those things that you love, what you're good at, and what the world needs, you're finding your life's purpose. And that's where you're going to find those superpowers and being able to gift them. This is another concept that I think is important, which is approaching every situation and figuring out how to do things as well as you possibly can. Coming out of World War II, America's sort of contribution was, being able to produce industrially things fast and cheap, really fast and cheap. But coming out of the war, what happened is we continued making things fast and cheap and supersized. We stopped making things good. And in the world that we're going into, it's no longer about making things mediocre. I believe we're living in a world of mediocrity. And what we need to do is we need to start making things as well as we possibly can. And this is this idea of continually improving, approaching every situation and not doing things mediocre. It's about doing things as well as you possibly can. And, we've historically, if you think of life as a game, the game has been architected in such a way that it's about, most people are living lives where it's a focus on me. And how do I take care of me? But I think what we have the opportunity here is to build a world of we. We can move away from a world of scarcity and this mentality, this zero-sum game mentality where for me to win, you have to lose. We can build new systems. We can create a world of abundance. And try to remember that it's not about me, it's about building a world of we. The ICO market, obviously, one of the things that we can do in that area, if you're working on things in this space, is don't do what the last person did. Try to figure out how to improve on what the last person did. Keep making things better. Keep making it as best you can. And a lot of that is just around things like transparency, but try to continue to contribute to this movement how you can in that way. Does anyone know what this is? This is an event that occurs all over the world. This happens to be from Nevada. It's called Burning Man. You actually have a Burning Man here in Korea as well. It's been 4 times. So you don't have to travel to the United States to visit this event. And I think Burning Man is basically, if you think of the blockchain as the technology that is decentralizing the world, I think of Burning Man culture as the culture that basically pairs with that. And so I encourage all of you to dream, because there is no ceiling. It's entirely blue sky above us. The only limitation in life for us are the limitations we impose on ourselves. So dream big. We're building a new world where anything is possible. Make some magic. And operate with love as, the chestahedron, what you see on the wall here, and when you see the EOS logo, is the sacred geometrical shape of the heart. Operate from that sort of place. Best intentions always. Let's also not forget about taking care of Mother Earth as we build these new systems. Let's do it thoughtfully and responsibly and make sure that we've got a place to live. And again, everything is possible. Get involved. This was from my wedding. My wife is the founder of Sense, and we got married at Burning Man, an entirely unicorn wedding, and having fun like that. But I'll close this out on, kind of a speech that motivates me. This is from a film and it's Charlie Chaplin, 77 years ago, the greatest speech ever written. And the words that you'll hear in this are just as relevant today as they were then. You know, this was in the middle of World War II.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite! And if we don't get a chance to talk tonight, you can always reach me at brock.ai, which is where the artificially intelligent version of me lives. Thank you very much for being here. 감사합니다.
네, 멋진 발표를 해주신 브락 피어스에게 다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 블록체인이 우리 사회의 변화에 미칠 수 있는 의미에 대해서 본질적으로 다시 한번 생각해 볼 수 있었던 멋진 발표였습니다. 다음 순서로는 II5의 시니어 애널리스트로 활동하며 블락원과 함께 EOS.io 소프트웨어를 개발하고 있는 조시 레벤의 발표가 이어집니다. 조 씨는 2010년부터 프로덕트 개발에 참여해 왔으며 다양한 산업과 시장의 디지털 솔루션을 제공하기 위한 분산화된 팀을 운영해 왔습니다. 그는 소프트웨어 개발을 하기 전에는 정치 분야에서 전문적으로 활동해 왔으며 몇몇 비영리 조직의 펀드레이징과 이벤트 기획을 컨설팅하기도 했습니다. 그럼 조시 라빈을 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다.
안녕하세요. 저는 Senior Analyst Joshua Levin입니다. I promise, thank you. I promise that will be the last Korean that I butcher tonight. Thanks very much, everybody, for being here. Obviously, we're very excited to be having our first meetup here in Seoul. Today I'd like to spend a little time talking to you about what we think the real future of decentralization is in the next few years. So personally, where we see businesses moving as they move into the blockchain and the transformation that's going to happen and why these businesses will naturally succeed. A little bit about me. I'm originally from the US. I've been living in Hong Kong for about 8 years. Most of that time I've spent working in technology on a number of different startups. I've worked in product design and product development and software development in areas from real estate to certain kinds of digital marketing, back-end systems, mobile applications. But honestly, for me, what I really enjoy, what gives me passion, what gives me great pleasure is to see products in the hands of users delivering value and making people's lives better. And that's what I'm excited about when it comes to blockchain. So, first let me talk a little bit about systems that we're all pretty familiar with. This is a centralized technology platform, which is something that has really defined most of the big technology startups of the last few years. Here are some of the names, including Uber, Facebook, Airbnb, a lot of companies that we're familiar with. Now, I'm going to use Uber as the example. So the way that Uber works, essentially we have value creators. So these are the drivers, the people who own the cars and provide the rides. And we have value extractors, the people who take the rides. The way that these two connect, basically there's the people who want to give a ride, the people who want to get a ride, and there's a centralized server that exists that puts these two people together. And when those two people come together, that's a value creation event. So the idea behind the whole business is that you can create enough value by putting the extractors and the creators together. You can produce enough value that you can take some profit out of the system. Now, the problem with this is that when you end up with a centralized server and profit coming out, what you end up with is a split between the beneficiaries and the users of the system. So ultimately, the beneficiaries of the Uber system are the people who own Uber, are the shareholders who are trying to pull as much profit out of the system as they possibly can. And the key point is that without that profit bridging the gap, there would be no system. So Uber only exists. The only reason that we get to ride in an Uber car is because the Uber company believes they can pull enough profit out of the system to make it worth their time. This has a couple of key weaknesses by comparison to a decentralized company. The first piece is, of course, the profits give the only reason for service. So that means that every decision that's made is made in the context of maximizing the profit to the shareholders, not of maximizing the value to the end user. The end user gets the minimum amount necessary to keep the profit coming into the system. The second piece, and this really follows the first one, is that there's no user vested interest. There's no reason for me, as a rider, to ever use Uber if there's a taxi just in front of me. In Hong Kong, we have taxis everywhere. And I'll be honest, sometimes I call an Uber, and a taxi will come by, and I'll just cancel the ride. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't profit me anything to use the Uber system. So why would I stay in it? In 2014, our CTO, Block One CTO Dan Larimer, introduced the concept of a decentralized autonomous collective, or DAC. You may have heard this referred to as a decentralized autonomous community or company, sometimes organization or DAO. And essentially, this is an organization that using decentralization, using a blockchain and an open source platform, creates a completely different type of company and a type of community that keeps the value inside. So why don't we take a look at how that would work in the case of a decentralized Uber. We start with the same actors. We have the value creators and the value extractors. So we still have the riders on one side and the drivers on the other side. But unlike in the case of the centralized Uber, they're actually connected through an open source platform that's linked together with tokens. The way that this works is that you have an open source piece of software, each person who participates in the system owns a certain number of tokens. So in the case of an Uber, if I'm a rider, when I call my driver, I'm actually transferring some tokens to the driver rather than transferring currency. And when I'm a driver and I want to extract value out of the system, I can turn those tokens, I can basically sell those tokens back to riders. And this creates a natural economy that stays within. And the real key here is that the value, that extra profit, stays inside of this network. So rather than having profits extracted and brought out to shareholders and brought out of the system, they can actually be turned back into the system. So that creates a tremendous value creation, a tremendous value add into the system just by usage. The key for open source software, and the reason that blockchain and open source software is so important for these decentralized autonomous communities, is that it provides transparency, auditability, and trustworthiness and inclusiveness. So the key here, first of all, transparent. The open source code is available for anybody to audit, anybody to look at. This means that when you're getting involved in the system, you can know everything there is to know. It's not like, when you install a new operating system on your iPhone, you just immediately click through a 45-page long, impossible to read end-user license agreement that basically commits all of your house and all of your, generations of your family's wealth to Apple if anything goes wrong. In an open source system, you can understand everything that's available to you, which creates a level of trustworthiness. And that is really the key, is that the people don't need to know each other. They don't need to be directly connected in order to have trust that both actors are acting for the betterment of the system. Once the value creators and the value extractors become the same person, and they remove the shareholders, they actually become the shareholders, the beneficiaries, the incentives are now properly aligned. What this means is that there isn't one party seeking maximum profit and another party seeking maximum value or a maximum best experience. Everybody's actually seeking the same thing. This is a radical reinvention of how a business operates. Imagine an Uber where when a driver is making a decision, it's not just about how do I get the most expensive ride with the lowest possible fee, but the decision is actually what can I do today to grow the value of my token? What can I do to grow the utility of the network that I'm bought into? That's a tremendously powerful transformation. And it means that every user in the system is essentially an owner and a beneficiary of all of the use of that system. That creates unprecedented vested interest. So earlier when I said, when I'm in Hong Kong and a taxi comes by, I'm going to cancel my Uber ride because there's no actual value to me to waiting for that car. If I'm a token holder in a decentralized Uber, I have all of the reason in the world to wait for that car to come to me. And that means that the usage of the system goes up. One of the largest challenges in all internet companies is not acquiring users, but keeping users engaged. And by having the company itself, having the usage of the system increase the value of your own ownership, this is an unbelievable transformation in terms of how companies are going to keep users engaged. The last piece is that it allows the system to leverage a much larger pool of innovation than has ever existed. Brock talked about this a little bit in his talk, and I want to expand on it, which is this idea that you can actually choose the companies that you work for. And rather than being paid in currency or in a salary, you can actually be paid in an ownership stake. So if you consider a developer at Uber today, that developer goes in and they get a paycheck and they go home, but they don't really benefit if the company succeeds or fails. How incentivized can they possibly be to do their best job? If that person, if that developer's payment is being made in the form of tokens, and moreover, if that user, if that developer is electing, they're choosing on their own to do something that they are passionate about, that benefits the system, then they are more incentivized and they will produce better code and better software. What's more, it's not limited to just development. Take, for example, marketing. If I was a successful marketer and I had an idea for a decentralized Uber, I say I've got a wonderful billboard campaign or a wonderful internet campaign, I can go to the token holders of this decentralized Uber network and say, here's a proposal, vote for me, I want this many tokens, and then I will use them to create this marketing campaign. Unlike a traditional consultant, that marketer is now being paid an ownership stake of the system that they are promoting. And I personally believe that means they will do a better job, they will do a faster job, and a more complete job. Ultimately, what that means is that these three things, aligning incentives, unprecedented vested interest, and leveraging a larger pool of innovation, will create businesses and products that will be more efficient, smarter, and outcompete the existing centralized systems that we have today. I actually don't know how a centralized Uber can possibly hope to compete with its decentralized counterpart. And I truly believe that in a few years, we will see decentralized systems that completely remove the old centralized ones that we're used to today. I think that's going to be good for the users, and I think it's going to be a very exciting time to be a product person, which is really why I'm here and why I'm excited to talk about this. I want to talk about now one actual example of a decentralized autonomous collective that exists, which is a website called Steemit. I don't know if people are familiar with this, but Steemit is the previous project of Block One CEO Dan Larimer, and it's actually an amazing community. This is a decentralized autonomous collective that exists to basically be a content platform. It's like a Reddit or a Medium, but instead of just allowing people to post their content, because it operates on a blockchain, users are actually rewarded for upvotes. So when people click the little upvote, this is monetized. This is actual dollars that are being transferred to the person who creates the content. This is an amazingly transformative idea. And very quickly, when Steemit was introduced in 2016, it very quickly rose into the top 10,000 websites visited on the World Wide Web, basically by everybody, which is a tremendous accomplishment. Steemit is still an operating community today. And what's amazing about it is that the people who work and post on Steemit, by and large, are not people employed by a company. They're people who are passionate about this community. These are the sorts of very early stage websites and products that I think really demonstrate the power of decentralization to take on the major players in product design. Tokens are the network. This is the most important concept in a successful decentralized autonomous collective. The tokens, putting tokens on a blockchain, splitting up the ownership, and putting it in a way that's provable and auditable and trustworthy allows for tremendous investment into the system. And there are some ways that you can use tokens to help power the network. Some of the ways that Steemit works and some of the ways that we expect other similarly run systems to work would be that the tokens guarantee you a certain amount of network access. So in the case of EOS, you'll need to use tokens on an EOS blockchain to basically lock up a certain amount of the processing power. Another piece is block producer nomination. So on a Steemit, for example, the Steemit blocks are produced by a set of 21 elected block producers. And those people are accountable to the token holders. This is part of what allows Steemit to be such a fast and efficient product by comparison to other existing blockchains. And finally, the last piece is a network emission allocation. So this is really what happens with some of the profits that I was talking about earlier. When you capture the profits in the network and then bring them back in, now the network itself can decide what to do with them. And it's really up to the token holders to determine what are the most valuable things that you can do with the extra value that you've created simply by usage. You can, if you want to, simply destroy them, which will remove all inflation. You can have a completely inflation-free network if you so choose, and if you feel that that's the most valuable way to have your network work. You can have decentralized administration over the allocation. So the key is that, you know, as I said before, the marketing person can come up and say, I've got a great idea for a particular design, or the developer can come up and decide, you know, this is how I want to, you know, the work that I want to do, and this is how much it'll cost. And it's really up to the people in the network to make the decisions. So that is our view on what decentralized autonomous collectives are going to look like, why they're going to be successful, and hopefully how they'll be disrupting the existing titans of technology in the very near future. Thank you very much.
네, 멋진 발표를 해주신 조시 라빈에게 다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. EOS의 개발팀이 생각하는 탈중앙화된 경제 시스템의 철학을 잘 이해할 수 있는 키노트였습니다. 다음 순서는 블락원의 리드 프로덕트 디벨로퍼인 세르그 메텔린이 EOS IO 개발 현황에 대해서 한국 커뮤니티에 공유할 예정입니다. 박수로 마주해 주시기 바랍니다.
Designer at Block One, and today I would like to present you with some of the developers' updates and share some of the exciting information about what our developers are up to. But before getting into the updates, let's reiterate again why we're actually building this software. Where is the need coming from? So if we're going to have a look at the current market and the requirements of large online companies and corporations, we will understand that there are some requirements for the performance that is expected from the platform. So if we're going to have a look at the payment processors, such as Visa or MasterCard, for instance, they need about 20,000 transactions per second to be able to successfully and on time process the transactions of their customers. Moving on to social media, only Facebook like button alone by itself needs more than 52,000 transactions per second to successfully process the requests of the customers. When we move into the world of exchanges and prediction markets, it's even higher. It's going to hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. Now let's have a look at what the market actually offers. So Bitcoin offers 4 transactions per second, and Ethereum offers about 14 transactions per second shared for the whole network. So imagine Facebook, Visa, and NASDAQ sharing together a long queue of the requests they need to go through to allow their customers to successfully finish their operations. Well, that's not really sustainable, and we've identified a large gap that we need to fill. Additionally to that, not just the performance is what's important. The application developers need a certain level of abstraction on top of the low-level development to be able to successfully, and what's really important, very securely, to develop their applications. So things as, how many are developers here actually do actual development? So when you do start the application development, probably you are not really building your MySQL or SQL database from the get-go. You actually reuse software and the best practices that are out there. If you would be trying to implement your own database from the very, very scratch, the technology behind it, probably you would do a lot of security holes and a lot of problems. So Dan Larimer, our CTO, actually built quite a few large-scale, decentralized companies before, and the learnings from his experiences were fed back into the EOS.io platform. So EOS.io is the first blockchain operational system that provides not just the low-level, high-performance transactions ability, but also a set of the utilities that allows developers really fast and really efficiently and securely build their applications. Additionally to that, the DPoS consensus, distributed proof-of-stake consensus that lies in the base of our blockchain is very, very efficient and saves a lot of money that doesn't go to the mining because the consensus algorithm removes the concept of mining. So when we were building and iterating through the development of the platform, we recognize that developers need a place to learn, to experiment, and to evaluate the platform. Learn how to code and also how to build and deploy their applications to the blockchain. Experiment with their ideas and actually start deploying their applications before they go to the live environment on the live blockchain, as well as evaluate the performance. But even more than that, future block producers should have some space and environment to be able to identify whether this blockchain is right for them and whether they can build business on it. So our team was working really, really hard, and in December last year we released EOS.io Dawn 2.0, which is the second major iteration of our software. It was released on December 4th, 2017. It's publicly available. It features publicly available testnet and maintained by Block One for the developers community. It was released well ahead of the schedule, almost 1 month ahead of the schedule. And one of the reasons why is because the developers that were coming to us, they're not just willing to experiment on the platform. A lot of businesses that did their ICOs or like planning business, they need us to be able to successfully build their business. Dan Larimer is actually a big fan of a feedback loop between the developers and the blockchain, third-party developers and blockchain developers, which is actually great because releasing the testnet allows developers to start building and then feedback back to our development team to improve the blockchain even more. So far, since the launch, we've produced more than 1.5 million blocks, and the testnet was extremely stable. The features of the EOS.io 1.0 included the simulated production environment with 21 block producing nodes, which is how it's going to be when the blockchain will be launched in June. 2-second block time, Genesis block, and free token faucet. And the free token faucet is the platform that allows you to actually go and get your free test tokens to be able to deploy your application on the testnet today, as well as developers API that allows you to create and deploy the applications to the testnet. The release was tremendous success, but we cannot stop, and we need to move with the speed of light. And right now, our developers team is working on EOS.io Dawn 3.0, which is the next iteration of our software. EOS.io Dawn 3.0 features new features such as bandwidth and database algorithm rate limiting, which is extremely important because it will secure our platform from spam attacks, and as well as will provide a guaranteed bandwidth and throughput for the businesses. Scheduled transactions. So this is a pretty unique feature that is really interesting for future businesses built on top of EOS.io. It will allow businesses to create scheduled transactions on the type of subscription. So imagine you are decentralized Netflix. At the moment on the majority of the blockchain platforms, the user has to go to the platform and actively process the payment. But with EOS.io, you actually can, as a developer, schedule the transactions to be automatically taken off the user's account. Lost password recovery as well as hacked account recovery. In the world of Bitcoin and Ethereum, if you lose your private key, you essentially lose your money. Well, nobody really likes that. On the EOS.io platform, you can actually, if you lose your private key or someone hacks into your account, through a system of social interaction and also right timing, your account still may be recoverable, which is amazing. Merkle tree calculation. So this is a piece of cryptographical software embedded in our blockchain that is extremely important for the horizontal scalability. It will actually allow the creation of the side chains that are proved back to the main chain. 500 milliseconds blocks. So this is something that we'll introduce in the next iteration as well, which will even further improve the performance of our blockchain. And dozens and dozens and dozens of other stability and performance optimizations. Not just the core platform is what we're working on, we're also working on the developers' tools and the ecosystem, and our main efforts are channeled in two directions. So one is the documentation improvements that can be tracked through our wiki and the main GitHub, and the other one is the smart contract templates. So smart contract templates are basically going to be the bootstrap platform for the developers to be able to build their real-life applications in the future. I really encourage those of you who are developers or interested in developing on our platform to take a photo of this slide because this link is the tutorial, end-to-end tutorial on how to build your real-life application and deploy it to EOS Testnet. Essentially, at the end of going through this tutorial, and it's very simple and it provides information in a very chewable format. At the end of this tutorial, you will get a deployed application deployed to EOS Testnet. We're also not forgetting about the front-end integration libraries. So some time ago, we've developed an EOS.js ECC, which is a cryptographical low-level library that provides the cryptographical functions needed for the creation of private keys, account management, etc. On top of that library, we've built EOS.js, which is, again, a pretty low-level interface library that allows developers to interact with the EOS testnet and in the future with the public net. And we also started to develop EOS.JS KeyGen and EOS.JS KeyStore. These are the high-level utilities that allow even those people who are not very familiar with the encryption and cryptography to still start creating accounts for the users on EOS.JS. We are aiming to allow developers that are not very good with the cryptography to still build very secure applications, and this is the purpose of these libraries. So I would recommend you also to take a picture of this page as well, because these are the main resources where you can go and read more about our technology. So obviously our main website, eos.io, where you can read about our company. GitHub.com/eos.io, which is the main GitHub repository. It contains a lot of sub-repositories. It has the source for the main blockchain. It has all the JavaScript libraries, and it has a lot of documentation around it as well. If you have any developers' questions, I really encourage you to send the email to developers@block.one. On the side from just general technical questions, and on the side of the integration, how to build your company on top of EOS. We also have a really, really vibrant Telegram community. So these are the 4 main channels that we're supporting. So EOS is the general channel. It just hit about 20,000 users recently. Very, very active community. EOS developers is more technical environment where you can ask your developers questions. Dan Larimer is quite often in that chat. So if you're a developer, go and ask your questions there. EOS Block Pro, which is the main channel for those who is inquiring about becoming a block producer or just interested about how it's all done and what's the future of the integration with the blockchain. And EOS Gov is the chat specialized in governance and constitution and all the philosophical conversation around that. My presentation is finished on this. Really, thank you.
멋진 발표를 해주신 세르그 메탈린에게 다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 네, 다운 3.0에서도 많은 진전이 있고 개발이 예정보다 더 빠르게 진행되고 있는 모습을 보면서 많은 기대감이 드는 그런 발표였습니다. 이 자리에 계신 많은 분들이 EOS 블록체인 위에서 어떤 프로젝트들이 개발되고 있는지 궁금하실 겁니다. 이번 미덥에 스페셜 게스트로 에버피디아 팀을 초청하여 그들의 멋진 프로젝트에 대한 소개와 함께 그들이 어떻게 EOS 위에서 프로젝트를 구현하고 있는지 들어보도록 하겠습니다. 에버피디아 팀을 큰 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다.
Hi everyone. First, I'd like to thank Brendan and the Block One team for inviting us out to the EOS Korea meetup. As one of the first and largest projects building on EOS, we're very excited to tell you why we decided to build on EOS and what it is we're actually building. And so, I'm Sam Kazmian, and I'm one of the founders of Everpedia. And what we're building is the world's first and largest decentralized knowledge bases, which means that it's a full encyclopedia completely on the blockchain. And so before I actually tell you what the tokens do and how we're building it, I'd like to go over some blockchain technology and history and explain to you guys why we're so excited to build on EOS. And so Bitcoin is considered as the first blockchain 1.0 technology. And I was lucky enough to discover Bitcoin back in college when mining was actually easy and before it became a professional endeavor. And I did my fair share of mining. What made Bitcoin really, really revolutionary is that it was just a simple database of account balances and values, and using clever cryptography, anyone that connected to the Bitcoin network could know what anyone else, anywhere in the world, regardless of their race, religion, creed, nationality, bank, or lack thereof, had, say, $500 million of value in their wallet. And that was very, very revolutionary back then, in the years 2010, 2011. But it wasn't until 2014 that the Ethereum team proposed taking the same type of cryptography that made Bitcoin work, proposed building a shared world computer instead of just a database. And this shared world computer, anyone who connected to the Ethereum network could build applications, deploy these applications, such as applications which printed your own money, or printed stock, or paid people given very specific conditions. And anyone in the Ethereum network could see exactly how it worked and shared this world computer. And this was just as revolutionary, if not more, than Bitcoin's original promise. But Ethereum's around 2 years old, a little over, and very few consumer applications which have rich communities built around them have not actually been deployed on Ethereum. In fact, when these applications are deployed, such as CryptoKitties and other applications that have actually gotten popular, they grind the Ethereum network to a halt. And that's because the shared nature of the Ethereum virtual machine, this world computer, is very bare bones. And what that means is it's a very simple computing device. And the truth is, most people who interact and use these rich consumer applications use them through an operating system. Operating systems that have higher abstractions that let you have account permissions, database, read-write access to blob storage, and all the features that Serge was talking about before in his presentation. And that's exactly what brought us to EOS, which is what we think the third generation of blockchain technology, the first fault-tolerant virtual machine with an operating system and governance. And so that's why we decided to build the Everpedia network, the first blockchain encyclopedia using EOS technology. So that's why we're here, and we're really excited to tell you guys what we're building and how we're building it. And so what the Everpedia network is it's basically Wikipedia 2.0, but completely open source and completely tokenized. Editors are rewarded IQ for curating articles. Tokens represent votes that allow editors to govern the network. So they represent shares essentially in this decentralized knowledge base. And having tokens essentially gets you part of the governance process. And so having more tokens and shares has a higher incentive to actually keep content higher, quality higher, and it's a completely democratic and open source process. This is something that Josh was showing us in his presentation. So when we developed the entire Everpedia network, we really took this to heart, and that value creators and value extractors really have to be aligned in a new generation encyclopedia, just like all of the decentralized, rich consumer applications that are going to be built, hopefully. And so this is a slightly more technical structure of how the Everpedia network works. There's a 3 smart contract system, a token module, which, as everyone's mainly familiar with, keeps track of token balances, token movements, and the classical token functions. The article or information module is where services, content curators, editors, bots, AIs interact with to actually submit data or knowledge and either get it approved or disproved by the stakeholders of the system. The article module then uses the IPFS protocol, which EOS has native storage and support for, to actually store the blob articles for anyone to access. And since anyone can use the IPFS protocol to host any of these articles, it becomes immutable and uncensorable. The governance module is the third and final smart contract that actually is part of the Everpedia network. The governance module is used to actually propose any changes to any of the smart contracts, including itself. And so this is built because we actually think that the best way to be a self-sustainable and self-governed decentralized application is to allow the stakeholders and token holders of the network to be able to fully be in charge of commanding the rules, creating changes, and deploying new changes as more and more answers are found about what should the actual network look like. We don't know all the answers at the beginning, but we want to lay out the system so that it's completely self-governed, just like the platform that it's built on. And so the articles are completely decentralized in terms of hosting. They use EOS.io storage, which is what we're really, really excited to actually try out and use. And since they're collectively hosted by the community, articles are curated by the community and token holders. It's completely immutable and uncensorable, since anyone that hosts it can, in real time, just like the cryptography that makes Bitcoin work and stay in real time, anyone can actually serve these articles, EOS block producers or any IPFS node operators. And so I just want to go over everpedia.org, the website that we've built. So if you go to everpedia.org, what you won't see is a single-page splash screen for an ICO or a token project. What you'll actually see is a complete web application that we started in 2015 with the idea, what can we do to make the online encyclopedia better in every single aspect? And we started by completely redoing the design and the readability and the editing functions and completely changing the rules and making it an open interface where anyone can make articles about anything. And we realized as blockchain technology got better and more projects such as EOS were started that to really make a completely revamped 2.0 new generation encyclopedia knowledge base, it's not just about a website. It's about the entire backend and the governance and aligning incentives of editors, just like Josh was saying in his presentation. And so the everpedia.org website will be the first website that anyone can access and access the Everpedia network that's being built on EOS. But we hope it's not the only one, and we don't think it will be. In fact, anyone can use the EOS IO API to access any module of the Everpedia network, submit content, actually create services, get paid in tokens, make articles better, and not even have to use this website. In fact, other companies have been asking us about how they can build integration into their own websites through the Everpedia network. So it's not just about a website with token functions and an incentive layer. It's about building a completely brand new network that any website can plug into, any service can plug into, and a completely new generation of knowledge. And so this is our founders and executive team. We actually have Larry Sanger, who's the co-founder of Wikipedia, working with us on this project. It's very exciting. Some very talented and specialized team members, coders, and blockchain developers, and really great advisors that we're very glad are on board. And we're 13 people in total, and we'd love to talk with you, and we have the team here, and very excited to be at this meetup in Korea. And I leave you guys with this one quote from Paul Graham in 2007, and he's one of the best-known startup gurus of this generation. And back then, he was looking for actually exactly the disruption to Wikipedia and said, there's room to do to Wikipedia what Wikipedia did to Britannica. And we think that in 2018, with new technologies, new protocols such as EOS, and new communities being formed, there's finally the technology and the possibility of actually executing on this mission. And we're very, very excited to be building it on EOS. Thank you.
네, 오늘 이 자리에 오신 분들이 다 알고 계시는 것처럼 이제 스페셜 어나운스먼트가 준비되어 있는데요. 이제 스페셜 어나운스먼트는 6시 30분부터 전 세계 라이브 스트리밍이 하는 예정으로 지금 예정이 되어 있기 때문에 잠시 쉬는 시간을 가지고요. 6시 30분부터 이어서 시작을 하도록 하겠습니다. 꼭 6시 반까지는 행사장으로 다시 들어와서 착석을 해주시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming, and welcome to everybody who's joining us online at home. My name is Brendan Bloomer, and I am the CEO of Block One. In 2017, about 7 months ago, we started a ERC20 token distribution. And over the course of the last 7 months, we have now, and I'd like to officially confirm, we brought in about $1.1 billion US to Block One. Tonight, I want to start providing a little bit more transparency on how we're actually going to be structuring the organization and what our long-term goals are for building out this ecosystem. Before I get into that, we have another special guest, and I'd like to welcome the Everpedia team.
Hey everyone, we're the Everpedia team, and we're really excited to make a special announcement today at the Seoul EOS meetup. And as you guys know, we're the first decentralized encyclopedia on the blockchain, and we're building it completely on EOS technology. And a lot of people have been asking us, how can we get the IQ token, and when the ICO is, and when the token sale is. And we're really, really proud to announce today that, in fact, there is no ICO, and there is no token sale, and what we're doing for the very first time is airdropping IQ tokens to the EOS distribution list instead. And we're really, really excited to do this and set this precedent and give value back to the community that actually makes the platform we're building on possible. And we're really confident that we're the first, but we're not going to be the only dApp to actually do this. And so we're really excited to build on EOS, and we're really excited to set this precedent, and thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much. We're excited to have you involved in the EOS ecosystem. So Korea is a very important market for us. We've been spending a lot of time preparing, building the community here. And as one of those, as we move forward with that process, I want to make another announcement of a leader that we've established in this market. So I want to introduce Richard Jung, the former CEO of BitThumb, the largest exchange in the world, joining us as the head of Korea.
I would like to thank you for all of you here tonight. Thank you, Brandon. It is my honor to join the Block.one team. I'm Richard Jung. I've been working as a CEO for numerous high-tech companies, such as BTC Korea, widely known as a BitThumb, Alipay Korea, and management team at the second largest telco called LG Daycom. I wanted to witness a global game changer, building business on EOS software to create blockchain communities, starting from IT leading countries like Korea. Korea had numerous success on leading IT infrastructures, industries in the past years. And I continue to work with the companies and partners in Korea to create partnerships to become a leading blockchain community members worldwide. Since we have large audience in Korean, let me switch to Korean. 바쁘신데 올 겨울 들어 가장 추운 날인데도 불구하고 저녁을 함께 할 수 있어서 영광입니다. 저는 올해부터 EOS를 개발하는 블록체인 소프트웨어 개발사인 Block.one의 리처드 정 한국 대표입니다. 이전에는 LG 데이콤에서 정보통신 사업을 했고 작년까지는 알리바바 금융으로 잘 알려진 알리페이의 한국 대표와 최근에는 이제 BTC 코리아 가상화폐 거래소의 대표이사를 역임했습니다. 2018년 블록1의 첫 번째 공식 미럽 행사에 업계 커뮤니티 분들을 모신 자리로 블록체인 중심에 있는 EOS 소프트웨어 업데이트와 이런 취지 설명을 드리는 자리였습니다. 몇 주만 해도 미덥 형식으로 공식 행사 200명 정도를 진행을 하려고 의도를 했으나 신청 등록 하루 만에 1000명이 사인업이 돼서 급하게 진행돼서 행사에 오시지 못한 분들도 계시고 행사에 부족한 점이 많은 점 양해 부탁드리겠습니다. 오늘 모신 모듈 중에는 국가기관망, 인터넷 인프라, 정보통신 정책 등 지금의 대한민국 IT와 핀테크가 있게 하신 선구자들도 다수 참석하신 걸로 알고 있습니다. 또한 20년이 지난 2010년부터 성공한 글로벌 스타트업 창업자들도 여기 포함되어 있습니다. 이 자리에서 두 세대의 공통점은 바로 블록체인 기술일 것입니다. 투자에 관심이 계신 분도 있으시겠지만 오늘 이 자리에 오신 분들은 블록체인으로 사회적인 기술 발전과 적용 가능성에 유스케이스에 관심이 많은 지성인이자 엘리트 분이라고 생각합니다. 정보의 신속성보다는 분산화와 신뢰성이 필요한 시대입니다. 현재까지 인류는 기술이 개인들 사이를 매개하는 사회를 경험해 본 적이 없습니다. 도구의 사용이 유인원과 인류가 갈라지는 지점이었습니다. 사회적 기술, 즉 시장, 화폐, 관료제와 같은 사회를 개선하는데 인간의 노력이 개입할 여지를 준 것이 바로 문자체계입니다. 문자체계 이후 사회기술의 합의 알고리즘 내재를 한 것이 바로 블록체인입니다. 블록체인의 코드가 법이 되고 이러한 원칙은 투명한 작동 원칙 공개, 완전히 공개된 소스 코드, 임의 수정 불가라는 절대적 강제성을 부여합니다. 즉 종이시대법은 종이에 저장, 소프트 시대법은 코드로 저장하며 코드는 원칙이 되고 법이 됩니다. P2P 기술은 1인 1표라는 민주주의 기본 원리 바탕으로 작동합니다. 데이터를 저장하는 물리적인 저장 기술 제공, 컴퓨터 공학, 수학, 암호학만이 아닌 행동 경제, 게임 이론, 정치학 등 인문학적인 통찰들이 녹아 있습니다. 어쩌면 수세기에 이르러 저희들이 고민해왔던 리베리테리안들의 공통적인 꿈인 자유로운 개인들의 연합을 시스템적인 숙제를 던진 역사적인 순간일 수도 있습니다. 블록체인 산업 전문가 그룹의 숙제들 중에는 소프트웨어의 무결성, 합의구조 설계, 처리 성능, 개발 난이도, 가장 큰 문제인 인식의 장벽이 될 수 있습니다. EOS는 이러한 숙제들이 이루어질수록 블록체인 기반의 자율분산 앱들이 올바로 운영될 수 있기 위한 일종의 OS와 유사한 블록체인 컨스트럭트입니다. 소프트웨어 컨스트럭트입니다. EOS는 타의 추종을 불호로 하는 초당거래 확장성, 거버넌스, 지배구조, 유연성, 사용자 편의성을 제공하는 무결성 소프트웨어입니다. EOS는 블록.1에서 개발 중인 차세대 블록체인 플랫폼으로서 현재 많은 거래량을 처리하고 있는 빗쉐어와 스팀이 개발자로 알려진 댄 레이머, 금융권에 널리 보급된 프라이빗 분산 원장 프로젝트 R3의 코다를 설계한 이안 그릭, 19살의 나이에 성공한 창업가인 브랜던 블루머 등의 팀으로 구성되어 있습니다. 앞으로 EOS의 지속적인 관심과 기술의 진보를 지켜봐 주시기 바랍니다. 국내 블록체인 생태계 지원과 개발자 중심을 신속하게 제가 구축해서 대한민국 블록체인 및 IT 기업의 EOS 소프트웨어를 기반으로 개발하는데 문제가 없도록 현지화 노력에 최선을 다하겠습니다. 또한 추후 20년간 대한민국 IT 강국 재탄생에 신화의 일조를 하도록 최선을 다하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Richard.
Back to you, Brandon.
Yep. That's good. So I want to talk a little bit about funding. I've mentioned in some informal settings a little bit about our plans in the past about how we're going to be deploying capital into EOS IO innovation. And today I want to introduce EOS VC. EOS VC is a program that's going to deploy $1 billion of capital into EOS projects over the course of the next couple of years. We're now making a formal commitment to put the majority of the capital that's come in through the token sale back into the innovators. One of the biggest problems with this space today is that most of the token generation processes are actually destroying resources. So we take a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, we're paying tens of billions of dollars a year, right, to process very few transactions. In fact, in Bitcoin, we're paying hundreds of dollars of per transaction before transaction fees through the network inflation. Through the token sale over the last year, Block One has been able to take in those resources, and now we're going to be deploying them back into the entrepreneurs. This is going to stimulate more innovation, right? One of the goals of their token sale was to create a fair, transparent distribution process, but one of our major goals was also to do something that was not so destructive from a resource perspective, something that allowed us to keep that value and redeploy it back into the ecosystem. So I want to introduce the structure that we're going to be using to do this. We sat down and we said, if we're going to deploy $1 billion into EOS.io projects, what's the best way to do so, right? How are we going to foster the most innovation? How are we going to help those projects succeed? And this is the structure that we have put forth. Our Block 1 is going to be working with VC partners in order to deploy this capital. So it's going to be investing in different market-leading venture capital units throughout the world, right? And in addition to Block 1's capital, we're going to be bringing capital in from those partners. So it's going to leverage up those resources and then drive it back into the tail end of innovation. It's going to give us global access to projects. These VCs are already seeing the deals. They're already working with a lot of projects. And they're in an incredible space to educate the projects about EOS capabilities, right? We're firm believers that this technology is the only technology that's going to actually allow the blockchain to scale. It's the first technology that's going to allow us to launch projects like Steemit, like BitShares, the next Facebook, the next Uber, distributed communities that are ready to disrupt the Fortune 500s. A lot of the talk over the last couple of years has been about Bitcoin, has been about money, digital currency. But I think that in 2018 and into 2019, the conversation is going to just shift to DAX, or distributed autonomous collectives, or communities, as we talked about earlier. The partner VCs will be further putting capital into these vehicles. So we're actually going to be putting a lot more than $1 billion of capital into EOS.io innovation. And we think that the combination of the partnerships and the combination of all this capital coming together that we've been able to preserve through the token sale is really going to drive a level of innovation that we haven't yet seen. So on January 23rd, we're going to be announcing our first VC partner. It's a little early in the States, and we have to send everything out through media and embargo, so we're going to do that in a little bit different process, but it all starts now. And what we'd like you to do is reach out to us. Projects, VCs, we're talking to everybody. Although we've formed a couple of partnerships already, we're going to be deploying more capital, and we're still working with VCs and projects throughout the world. So please reach out to us. Our team is ready, and we want to hear from you guys. It's time to really take this technology mainstream, and now the spotlight is on you. The spotlight is on the innovators, the people that actually take this technology and then really build out the next generation of our future. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
네, 주말 저녁 늦은 시간까지 함께해 주신 블록체인 커뮤니티 모든 분들께 진심으로 감사의 말씀드립니다. 한국을 방문하여 큰 발표를 해주신 EOS 팀에게도 큰 감사를 드립니다. 이번 행사를 위해서 정말 많은 분들이 애써주셨는데요. 그 중에서도 특별히 이제 이 행사 실무를 위해서 정말 많은 준비를 해주신 서클 커넥션의 이정우 대표님께 깊은 감사를 드리고 싶습니다. 이정우 대표님 어디 계시나요? 네, 저기 뒤에 계시네요. 네, 박수로 좀 이렇게 감사 인사를 드리고 싶습니다. EOS 블록체인이 제시하는 많은 기술적 장점과 방향성은 EOS 커뮤니티뿐만 아니라 이제 막 태동기인 블록체인 생태계 전반에도 많은 긍정적인 영향을 줄 것이라고 생각합니다. 지금 한국은 글로벌 블록체인 시장에서 굉장히 중요한 역할을 차지하고 있습니다. 작년까지는 한국이 투자와 트레이딩에 있어서 선도적인 위치를 차지했다면 올해부터는 많은 개발자들이 참여를 통해 한국에서도 세계적인 수준의 블록체인 프로젝트들이 더 많이 탄생할 수 있기를 바랍니다. 오늘 미드업에서 공식적으로 리차드 정님이 총괄하에 한국에서 EOS 개발을 지원하는 조직이 출범했다는 발표가 있었는데요. EOS가 앞으로 한국의 블록체인 개발 생태계에 있어서도 많은 기여를 할 수 있기를 바랍니다. 저희 해시드 라운지도 앞으로 멋진 블록체인 프로젝트들과 함께 블록체인의 기술적 개념을 한국 커뮤니티에 소개하는 미드업이 되도록 계속 노력하겠습니다. 미드업.com과 페이스북에서 해시드 라운지를 팔로잉 해주시면 더욱 다양한 이벤트 소식을 전해드리도록 하겠습니다. 그럼 이상으로 오늘 이벤트를 공식적으로 마치겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thought that I'd be better off if I were